Hey guys! Today we're going to be talking about sewing, and I'm so excited to talk to you about this because this is one of my favorite things to teach. We're going to be learning how to make a little Stuffy, or a little stuffed animal. And last year we learned about sewing, and you guys learned how to sew a pillow, and you seem to really like that. So I'm really excited to show you how to take it to the next level. It's a lot like sewing a pillow, but there's just a couple extra things that we can do. So if you are at home and watching this, hopefully you got your sewing kit and you are going to be really responsible with your sewing needle. But basically what you need for today is we're going to have some fabric, a sewing needle, and some yarn. And then also we're going to be gluing some other parts onto our Stuffy to make it look like a stuffed animal. So check this out and give it a try. For today's lesson, you will need this piece of paper that has your templates on it, some scissors, stuffing, sewing needle, fabric, yarn, something to trace your template with. It could be a marker, it could be a pencil, that'll work too. And then maybe some sort of glue or something to attach some pieces with to your Stuffy. Okay, so the first thing that you're going to do is you're going to pick which template you want to use, if you want to have an oval one or a square one, and you're going to need to cut that out. So I decided on the square one, so I am going to carefully cut my piece of paper out, and then I'm going to get my fabric ready. So you should have 2 pieces of fabric that your template will fit onto. And I would recommend tracing onto each individual fabric piece separately and not trying to do 2 at once. So like mine was folded, so I'm going to need to unfold it and separate them. And then I'm going to go ahead and trace onto my piece of fabric my template. And I'm going to try to get it as close to the shape as I can. It does not need to be super perfect. You could use a pencil for this or a marker, just so that you can see the line so you know where to cut. So you want to make sure that you do 2 of the same thing, and then after you're done tracing, you're going to go ahead and cut those 2 pieces out. All right, now that I have those 2 done, I'm going to get my piece of yarn and I'm going to put it onto my needle. So you want to make sure you use a big long piece, which you should have, and you are going to take the very end of that yarn and you're going to pinch it super, super, super close to the edge of the yarn so that there's barely any sticking out, teeny, teeny, tiny bit. And then you are going to shimmy that into the needle. Okay, and you're going to pull. And then what you want to do is you want to line up the 2 ends of your yarn. So mine's really long, so I had to find the other end. And I want to put those 2 ends together. And then I'm going to tie them together. So I'm going to wrap around my fingers, cross over, and then I need to tuck my yarn underneath. And then when I get my fingers out of the way and I pull, I'm left with a knot. Kind of like when you're trying to tie a water balloon. So let's watch again. Around the fingers, tuck it under, fingers out, pull. Okay, so now my tangly yarn here, I have to try to get my needle to be in the middle part of my yarn. So I had a couple tangles I had to figure out. But you want it to be kind of like a necklace. So the needle is trapped inside of your yarn, and you want to have, so when you're sewing, you want to have 2 pieces of yarn that are going through. Okay, so my 2 pieces, because I tied the 2 ends together, so that's going to go through. So I'm going to line up my 2 pieces of fabric, and then I'm going to push my needle through. Now this fabric was kind of hard to get my needle through, so I had to use my table to help me push it through a little bit, because my needle's kind of dull. Then it's super important that you pull all the way to the end. Pull, 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 pull till the knot hits, and then you're actually going to go the same direction again. So I went up with my needle, so I'm going to go up again with my needle. Push through, and then I'm going to pull all the way until it stops. This is so important. A lot of my students forget to do this step. It's really important. Otherwise you'll have a big gap or you'll run out of yarn really fast. Okay, so push your needle through, and then pull, 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 pull all the way until it stops. If it gets tangled, you need to just kind of sort that tangle out and then keep going. So push your needle through, and then pull, pull, pull all the way until it stops. I'm going to fast forward a little bit here for you. Okay, so I'm going to do that all the way around until I get almost all the way back to where I started. I put a little piece of magazine underneath so that when I was pushing, I wasn't making little holes in my table. So you might want to have a hard surface underneath if you need to push with your needle. Okay, so now it's time to add the stuffing. So in that little hole before you get to the end, you are going to carefully stuff as much stuffing as you want or can get in there. If you stuff it too full, then it will be hard to sew it closed, but you also want it to be nice and squishy. So try to get as much stuffing as you can in there. And then when you are done stuffing, you are just going to finish up sewing the end of your stuffy, and then I'm going to show you how to tie it off so that you can make sure it doesn't fall apart. All right, so I got my last little bit in there. You're going to want to make sure that you've got your yarn tight, get all the stuffing spread out evenly, and then you want to pinch your fabric at the end, and then you're just going to keep sewing. Keep going through exactly what we did before, pulling all the way till the end. Make sure that you have both pieces of fabric there, because sometimes they want to separate. You just want to check the other side and make sure you have both pieces. Push it through, pull to the end. And then my little end piece got caught inside there, my first part where I tied it, so I'm going to pull that out because I'm going to need that in a second. So I want to make sure that that's out still. Almost done. 1 or 2 more. Okay, last one. Okay, so then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that original first little tail and my piece that I was just using, and I'm going to actually just tie those together like you're tying your shoe. I'm going to do it a couple times so that it doesn't come undone, and then trim off the extra. So now I have my stuffy, and now I need to decorate it. I need to add details onto it. So I'm going to use my scrap fabric to cut out shapes, and I'm actually just using Elmer's glue to attach these. I'm even going to use marker to add some details on my stuffy as well. Make sure you let this dry really well, and then those pieces will all stay on really good. Arms, legs, ears, any kind of details you want. Ta-da! Here's my stuffy at the end. So I just used the scrap pieces of fabric to add those details. You can see I added eyes, some teeth, and then I used a marker to draw details. You don't have to use a marker, or you could just use a marker and just add details using your marker. So let's see how creative you can get and try making your own stuffy. I love my stuffy.